Happy Thursday. Welcome back to Inside the Lines. We have Thursday night football to go over. Big night for Steven. Bengals, Ravens. Then we have some Heisman updates and, of course, some NBA value for you. Jake's in the chat. John's in the chat. Derek's in the chat. Any questions about anything, we have you covered. Let's start. Steven, give me your overall thoughts on the night so far.
On the game tonight?
Yeah.
I actually think that the Ravens are going to win. Since the Joe Burrow explosion 2 years ago, we had nearly 1,000 passing yards against, Wink Martindale's defense. We've held him to, I believe, 220 passing yards or less in 4 straight games. Actually, the early one this year, he may have had more yards, but we still won that game, and it was under 250. And the Bengals in general under to 17 points or less of offense in 4 straight games. So we actually have sort of figured out Joe Burrow as much as any team has statistically. So I do. And then the explosive plays that we have generated this year, sometimes too many explosive plays, and we're not getting the long drives, which gassed our defense last week against Cleveland. But apparently Cincinnati is the worst defense in explosive plays allowed. And we are leading the league in explosive plays. I also saw a stat that there's been 3 teams to lead the league to score 25 or more points a game and lead the league in points allowed. And they were the undefeated 72 Dolphins and the 85 Bears. So, I feel confident, but I'm never confident in terms of making a bet on the Ravens in the division game.
All right, well, let's talk about some bets we do feel comfortable taking. Start with our player props here. Keaton Mitchell making a name for himself recently. You like his rush and receiving yards to go over 47.5 here. And a lot of shop around value. If you look at that fade number, you can get him at 50.5 if you don't like this.
Yeah, I would not fade him. Our model line's 55. It would be a lot higher if he had actually come down to this 25-yard touchdown reception, hit his hands, but his vision was obscured by a defender. He had 134 in his breakout game, mostly on the ground. But last week it was 66, pretty much evenly split with a long run and a long reception. The big chatter, all the local press was like, why wasn't Keaton Mitchell getting the ball more? And so John Harbaugh said, well, he should have, but also that since he's a rookie, they needed to, kind of put in more plays where he's comfortable and understands the blocking schemes and all those other things. So apparently they've kind of ramped that up. And the last thing, I think that fans in Baltimore will revolt if we don't use Keaton Mitchell the way we didn't properly use J.K. Dobbins. When Dobbins was playing great last year, even without Lamar, Greg Roman famously did not give him the ball in key situations. We did not feed him that 20-plus times that he should have gotten it. And it created a lot of problems inside the locker room and among the fan base. I think that people will start just cheering for Keaton Mitchell. I mean, my brother was at the game where he exploded against Seattle. And he said it was the loudest he had ever heard the stadium at B. He's like, everyone just screaming Keaton Mitchell's name. So I think that people will go crazy if he doesn't get at least 12 touches.
Right. He's a man of the people. I like it. Now, your next play, this is really showing our professionalism here, okay? Although he is a Ravens fan, he has a lot of superstitious things going on. Maybe this is your way of telling yourself you can still get a win with some poor performance by Lamar. Lamar over, or I guess half an interception, 1 interception.
I don't like to bring up religion and stuff, but I was raised a pretty strict Catholic. In the Catholic tradition, there's traditions like you can go to, there's an old time where you could pay indulgences. You could basically pay the church to commit various sins. This is my version where I am willing to pay and lose money for Lamar to Lamar Jackson not to go over half an interception. So I figure, this is my attempt to say either be correct or pay the money to get 0 interceptions. But I do think that the conditions, unfortunately, are right for him to throw that at least 1 pick. And at near even money, it's pretty good payoff. So he's averaged 1 interception in his last 10 division games. He only has 12 interceptions in the last 22 games overall. So he missed a lot of time. So it's not 1-to-1 that time frame. But basically, his interception rate in division games is nearly double versus non-division games. Model line is at 1 interception. But this is mostly a big reverse jinx.
Yeah. The numbers talk, man. The model talks. We can only do so much. Let's move to a player that will be affected by T. Higgins not being here. Tyler Boyd, receiving yards. You like the over here?
Yeah, I mean, the another one with a lot of range. I think there's even a 50.5 on the board now. And it was 42.5 as the best over price a few hours ago. So this one's ticking up. I would move now. In 4 games, 2 in 2021, 2 this season, where T. Higgins did not play, he has averaged 77.5 yards. Now the over under is only 2 and 2, so it's basically he's had 2 big games and 2 not so big games. The not so big games happen because without T. Higgins, and Burrow doesn't have his full complement of weapons, the offense is a little more stagnant than normal. Model line's only 48 because the Ravens have done so well statistically against the Bengals. But I like conditions for him to go over. Marlon Humphrey is doubtful. I can't imagine him going. And we have a bend but don't break defense, especially against Cincinnati. So it's going to take a village to stop Jamar Chase. He's obviously the more explosive receiver. So we will concede 10 to 12 yards when it's 3rd and 15. We'll concede 7 yards to Boyd if it's 3rd and 10. And if Boyd beats his man, guys that our defensive backs who don't have big names have been really trained well in the art of defensive holding before they commit a bad PI. So you'll see a lot of defensive holdings, rather than give up with a big play downfield, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, fair enough there. This is the benefit of having an actual Ravens obsession that can help our Thursday night football bets and insight here. One question.
Healthy obsession.
Yeah. Keep telling yourself that. Let's go to a field goal prop here. Justin Tucker over 1.5 field goals made. Derek, I'm sure you looked into this one as well. You can answer.
I have a strong opinion about this as well.
All right, give us your strong opinion.
Well, Justin Tucker is the greatest of all time, but he has had at least 2, I want to say 3 long field goals blocked this year. He did not hit a game-winning 60-yarder against Indianapolis. It came like 1.5 yards short, and he looked genuinely surprised. And the reason why he's not getting his kicks blocked because an amazing 40-inch vertical leap from a defender. He's getting him blocked because he's trying to drill it low because he can't. I'm worried that Tucker is getting a little older and can't quite get the distance without a low trajectory. And so the 2 blocks that he's had were like blocked by elbows. They weren't tips. And so that's really concerning that I don't think he's money from distance. I want to say he's 1 for 5 this year on 50-yard plus. Okay. So I worry about that and even the fact that we are trying out our punter Jordan Stout potentially on kickoffs to conserve his leg. So that's something that people aren't talking about, but I am.
Yeah, Ravens Insider. There you go. The more you know. All right. If you have any more Thursday Night Football questions, ask them in the chat. I'm going to send. Actually, Steven, you're staying on with me. I'm bringing in Jake. Okay. We're going to talk some NBA really quick. Thursday night picks that we have model value on. We'll start with Miami. This line has been steaming to the under, but we have value on the over.
Yeah, so the model is picking up on the fact that Brooklyn's average score per game last year and this season is considerably higher on the road. Miami is a stable 217 per game at home. So the line opened at 217, but with Brooklyn's injuries and some players that are missing and Miami's reputation as a great defense, people have been betting it under. But I'm just, the simple math is, okay, Miami is a 217 total at home, and you got a team that's, 225 this year, over 230 on the road. So that would bump it up. So the good thing is you can probably wait and see to see if you can get this down to 213.5. The public's backing Miami against the spread initially. So the line was like minus 2.5 to open, bumped up to -4 and even -4.5. Now it's swung back the other way. Model still likes Miami -3, even though they're 0-4 against spread at home and not good last year either. Right. Model. So Brooklyn has allowed 5 more on the road last season, plus 6 more this season. Miami's had 2 days off since their road trip. Tyler Hero is out, and the team averages 1 fewer point without him, but they also allow nearly 3 fewer points without him. So, and guys like Duncan Robinson, even though they're bad individual defenders, the style that can play, the amount of energy you got to spend just chasing that guy around actually results in the fact that the team, Miami, is plus 1.1 better in point differential when Duncan Robinson plays a significant role of 15 or more minutes. I think it also comes down to Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson shooting under 50%. So in the 3 of the last 4 games, Bridges was under 50%. The team scored 102, 107, 100. So even though we like the over, we actually, if I had to make a bet, might be on the under on the Brooklyn team total.
Okay. We have some player props. This guy cracks me up. It could be rookie of the year. Way too early to assume that. 6th man of the year, maybe. Is he affected at all by Tyler Hero not playing?
Yeah, and he's the one that Jake pointed out to me that we definitely have to. So Jake, you've been tracking.
How do you say his last name?
Jaquez.
Oh.
Yeah.
He looks like the biggest gooner of all time.
Well, he's surprisingly athletic. People don't think because of the way he looks.
Awesome. That's my favorite kind. He's full of guys like that.
He was throwing around he was like, I saw a 360 in a warm up. But yeah, the last few games he's had 38, 32, and 33 minutes. Sorry, this is too small to see. 20, 11, and 17 points in the last 3 games. They weren't garbage time games necessarily. They're close ones. He's playing real minutes. We still have him at a relatively low 9.5 points tonight, but his points, rebounds, and assists is higher than the betting line, the consensus line.
Right.
So we do have over 12.5 points in rebounds. We have at 13.
Derek's saying that Martin might be back in as well. So that's something to do.
That's why it's not as he played last game.
I think Hawkins has earned his minutes. So we'll see.
Yeah. So we don't have Hawkins at the 30 level, but we have him at the 24 level with Caleb Martin back.
None the rest. I'm just rooting for that guy in general. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk a little bit of college football. It is Team Total Thursday. Steven, I'll send you the chat to answer more NBA questions. We just got to get right into it. Let's start with, this might be one of my favorite plays of the week, and it's so weird to say, Iowa Team Total over. Everybody hold on to your hats. Okay?
Are we crazy? What's up with this? Going with the Iowa Team Total? I mean, they were good to us last week. They were good to us last week when we went against Rutgers when Iowa played them. And actually, the games, even though they've been in the 28, 29 ranges, the totals, Iowa's hit their team total the last 2 weeks. Deacon Hill threw for over 200 yards last week. Illinois, I don't know why they're going back from John Paddock to Luke Altmaier after John Paddock threw for almost 500 yards. I guess Altmaier could have done the same thing if he played against Indiana's defense last week. But I think Altmaier could have a couple of turnovers. I would have some short fields. And like we talked about earlier, Illinois' running back situation's a little tough because they have a bunch of injuries. So they're going to have to throw the ball a ton. The one thing that they do have going for them is probably their second best offensive player, their cornerback, Cooper DeJean, who has 4 touchdowns this season, which is second on the team, even though he plays defense. He's out for the season after breaking his foot in practice. But we have Iowa at 20 points. I think they're going to cut it close, but I think there's definitely value over 16.5.
Yeah. Sorry, I just completely avoided Steven's second NBA pick. So let me just tap on that real quick. Chris Paul over 1.5 steals, again, with Curry out. He played 36 minutes and had 3 steals versus Minnesota. In 56 games, he played 30-plus minutes. And he averaged 1.73 steals there. We have model value at 1.57. So just put that in the back of the brain too. All right, let's get back to our team total here. One of my other favorite ones you have this week, Tennessee team total under 24.5 versus Georgia. Georgia is 10-point favorites on the road.
Yeah, so while Georgia's defense isn't what it was the last couple of years, it's still pretty darn good. And I don't think they've allowed more than 24 points this season, maybe once earlier in the season, but they've been really good lately. Tennessee just put up 6 points against Missouri. Milton is starting to struggle, and I don't think life's going to get any easier against this Georgia defense. And I like that you're getting it at 24.5. So I think it's pretty good value at 24.5. This is the pinnacle. A lot of other places have it at 23.5, but I'd rather get the extra point at -128.
Big time. All right, this is a little bit of a daunting one, but they are 16-point favorites. UTSA team total over 41.5 here versus South Florida.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, but I like that it's at 41.5, not 42.5. It's senior night for UTSA. They have Frank Harris is one of the probably their all-time most probably has the most wins in UTSA history because he's been there for like 10 years, it seems like. And I think they're going to want Frank Harris to go out on a good note against a really rough South Florida defense. I think this is a good chance to be a shootout. We have them at 48 points, so we have a full touchdown beyond 41.5.
Wow. Like that there. Love to see the model value. One more team total here. Jacksonville State team total over 31.5 versus Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, so this is interesting because Jacksonville State, their offense has really struggled at home, but it's been good on the road. I think they're averaging 32 on the road. A lot of Tech's giving up 32 points per game this season. So if this game was on the road, you'd expect this team total to be probably like 34.5, 35, but they're actually at home and it's at 31.5 because they've struggled at home. But they've played Western Kentucky, they played Liberty at home, so they've played some of the better teams in the conference. Louisiana Tech, I think they've given up at least 35 points in 4 of their last 5 games. Their defense is really rough. Jacksonville State had a bye week last week. Zion Webb should be healthy. They do have their backup quarterback, Logan Smothers, should be healthy as well. He got banged up too. So they should have plenty of depth at quarterback. I think that the models, like Vegas's models, are probably taking into account their poor performance at home, but they haven't played La Tech at home yet. So they're playing a much worse defense this time.
Okay. All right, good stuff there. Always love a team total Thursday. Steven in the comments, I mean, talking about how you're scared to take an over because slump scares you. Do you not know he's due? Okay, that's how this works. My guys do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to some Heisman stuff super quick.
Trained you well, Mackenzie. I've trained you well.
Learn from the best. Super quick update on the Heisman situation. We've kind of come down to a Pac-12 champion probably wins this award unless they slip up in any way. So a little bit different than we did a couple weeks ago. Now you're looking at these players are really just looking for certain scenarios to play out for them. And then we gave them a probability of said scenario happening. So we start with Bo Nix, shortest odds here at plus 110. That's the best value you can get. He's looking to beat Arizona State, Oregon State, and then win the Pac-12. What do we think about the Pac-12 in general? Do you think they're essentially both getting there, or can Oregon State give them a run for their money?
I think even if Oregon State gives them a run for their money, I think both of these teams are going to play off. I think they pretty much clinched the conference championship game against each other, Washington and Oregon. But Oregon State could definitely ruin some of the Heisman momentum for some of these guys. And with
Oregon State's, but Oregon State's good enough to be favored against Washington. So this is going to boost Nix's profile if he,
Yeah, Big Cheesy has been saying Nix all season. I've been a little down on him. But he's impressed me. I'm still used to freshman year Bo Nix at Auburn, sophomore year, I guess, when he was a little rough. And he said all this hype.
I'm just surprised that he's close. He's minus 112 on one of the sports books, and just surprising because for him to hit this, I think the scenario is very valid. So it just teams are. He's not going to be 90% favored in these matchups. So it's like, that's we'd have to, 80% favored. He'd have to be at least 85% favored in each of these matchups to be anywhere close even odds. So it just doesn't make sense to me that it'd be that much. I mean, I think even the biggest Oregon fan would say that there'd be a 60-40 favor against Washington in a rematch. They can be much more than a 65 versus Oregon State. And then even if they're 95 against an Arizona State, it just doesn't add up to me.
And he's probably only going to win if he beats Washington in the Pac-12 championship. You could probably get Oregon probably the plus 300 to win the Pac-12 championship right now. So you might as well take those odds instead of this.
But then again, the simple fan in me says 34% is the highest that we have on our board. So It's still number one.
All right, well, let's go to the other side of this with Michael Penix looking to do the same thing, beat Oregon State and then Washington State, but then again, win the Pac-12 versus Oregon to secure that 26% chance of that happening. We actually have some value here because we put this more at plus 285 instead of plus 380.
Yeah, I mean, but the dreaded, can you do the same thing twice? Can you beat Oregon and Bo Nix twice in the same year? I mean, what are the chances of that? I know they're technically around 48% according to the model, but in the world of that doesn't involve stats, it's mojo. I don't know.
Big Cheesy, let me give you the McCarthy deal situation right now. He is not hitting that 30 passing touchdown threshold. Same with Travis. Therefore, these guys are out of the picture. He was never in the picture in our eyes.
Well, I mean, it hurts to be thrown the ball 8 times, and yeah, I guess
0 times and a half.
Right. If there was an efficiency award, McCarthy would get that award, but 100%. He doesn't have the Heisman award.
Respectfully, Harbaugh's not concerned with the Heisman win. He's more concerned about getting to a championship. So, take what you can, choose your battle.
He's more concerned about trying to coach his team, and he's busy. He's busy being
figure it out over there, Big Cheese. I mean, the drama over there is just ridiculous. All right,
but it's interesting, the second that those players clearly weren't going to hit that 30 pass touchdown threshold, the odds all went from even Jordan Travis plus 800 to plus 5,000, 6,000. It just that clearly is a statistical mark that Jake picked up on. Weeks ago.
Jake just got kicked out for some reason, so maybe he'll come back. But until then, all right, let's talk about here.
So I think this guy is spectacular, and the comparisons with Lamar Jackson are rising. Our own with the First Pick podcast with Ryan Wilson, and it was talking. The headache is Jaden Daniels, Lamar 2.0, and like Lamar, the narrative is building. Lamar, Robert Griffin, Tim Tebow, massive stats, super highlights, and all had 3 losses. So that narrative is gaining steam. So if Penix loses any game, even if he wins the Pac-12, but if he loses any game, and if Nix doesn't beat him, then it opens right up for Jaden Daniels.
Right. So those are our 3 that honestly we think have the best shot. Again, Nix and Penix probably would have to slip up for this to happen for Daniels. Derek's saying Daniels passed the eye test. This is true.
I know why Jake dropped out.
Why?
Just because Jaden Daniels demolished Florida last week and had 650 total yards. And
he can't even stomach it.
And he started crying with PTSD. Yeah.
All right, let's move to one more just for kicks to talk about. We have Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, we were talking about small sample size to compare him to, but non-quarterbacks who have won this award. And from what I understand, he's not exactly at the statistical level that any of those guys were by this point in the season.
Yeah, so people are you looked it up. Mackenzie's doing a big spot this weekend talking about this stuff. We were researching Marvin Harrison. So he doesn't have the stat to say Devontae Smith. But everyone knows how awesome he is, and he has the benefit of saying no. You don't see Ohio State, any other player in Ohio State, anywhere near the Heisman board. So 100% of if they go undefeated and win the Big Ten, then Harrison's going to get the lion's share of the credit, and he's probably the number 2 pick in the draft or number 3 at worst. But the thing that he also benefits is there's too many good quarterbacks. So Smith got it a few years ago because we had Trevor Lawrence, who had ridiculous stats and success for his career. We had Mac Jones, who actually beat Joe Burrow in terms of passing metrics statistically. And you had Kyle Trask, who was a 2nd-round pick and 42 passing touchdowns. And so when you had 3 quarterbacks with ridiculous stats, then everyone says, well, the stats don't really differentiate, and they kind of divvy up that pie, then goes to Harrison. So that could be the scenario here. But we do think in our scenario here, we think that he needs the 3 quarterbacks to slip up, because if he had 25 receiving touchdowns or so 20, whatever Devontae had,
right,
then it would be much better chance. But with 10, it's not going to cut it.
Yeah, he's just not there statistically, and it's hard to compare stats when there's only so many guys to compare it to. But given that he's in a Heisman race with draft potential quarterbacks, it makes his case a lot harder. All right, that's all we have time for today. Tomorrow, the drill, prop party, lots to go over there. Best day of the week. So tune in for that. Good luck with your bets tonight. Feel free to ask us questions on Twitter, and we will see you on Friday.